morning, and welcome to the lovely sanctuary here at St. Paul's. You'll notice we got a little bit of a different view. Here in the last little bit, my family and I, we've been on vacation, but we've been following the news and watching stuff as it's going on. And this Wednesday, as we contemplate Worship Wednesday, what I would like to do is challenge you to consider your life as an act of worship. Now, sometimes it's really hard to see things from this perspective. We can see the church, we can see Jesus in the window, we can see the color in the stained glass, we can see all the seats, we can see all of these wonderful things, but sometimes we lose track of the big picture. And as Christians, that big picture is the message of Jesus Christ. We're so set and busy on the space down there that we lose track of the bigger picture of how we're glorifying God. I want to share a passage with you from Romans. This is Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove that is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Well, what's the will of God? Well, that all men would come to know him, that we would stand in truth. Now, truth is a difficult thing in our modern world because we go through and we want to have our truth be the truth. And this past year, we discussed in confirmation class big T truths and little t truths. And there is the reality that there are small t truths. And those small t truths really are the things that can change from a day-to-day basis. These are the things like, when I was growing up, I didn't care for asparagus, and now I like them. The truth is, I do like asparagus. Whereas in times past, the truth would have been that I didn't like asparagus, and those are small t truths. Large T truths are those things that we hold dear and that are unchanging. We live in a world where there is so much information and misinformation and disinformation that it's very hard sometimes to keep our eyes fixed upon, as believers, what we're to do. That passage from Romans speaks to us of how our lives are to be spiritual acts of worship, righteous and pleasing to God. So as we're going through these times, we have to ask ourselves, where does our identity come from that our worship might be godly in a way that is pleasing to God in our lives as we walk sanctified through the blood of Jesus, as we're justified by him. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't find that capital T truth in any political party. I watched the news a little bit this morning, and as they were discussing various things, the reality is every political party was asking leading questions. They weren't asking honest questions. Now, opposed to this, we run into Jesus, who in John 14 reminds us that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, the direct article is important inside of that passage because Jesus isn't saying that there's another truth available. He isn't saying that there's another life available. That if you don't like my truth, well, it's okay. You go follow Zeus or Hera or whomever it is so that you choose Ra or what would be a more modern yourself in the humanistic perspective. That Jesus doesn't give those options. He is the truth, and he claims to be God. We've dealt with this several times going through the Gospel of John, that he declares his divinity with regularity and without any shame. So as we're going through these difficult times, listening to various people with various opinions, saying various things, as we hear how this fits into that, it makes our lives difficult, especially as we try to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, empowered by the Spirit, to live those lives of worship that we are in fact called to do. But it becomes significantly easier when we come to understand and realize that when our eyes are focused upon Jesus, there's no difficulty. It's not about statues being torn down. It's not about government overreach or any of the other things, or unemployment, or Corona-19, or any of these other things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It, in fact, is simply about being Jesus to the world. Now, I'm going to say here as well, stop following social media for what it is that speaks to who Jesus is. There is so much false information out there. The Antichrist has to be in charge of social media for the most part. Follow good pastors. Follow good teachers. Let the Spirit of God convict you where it is necessary, and let it condemn where it is necessary. Because the things that talk about Jesus as God is love, and then ignoring the reality of the justice of God, is not following the will of God either. So our lives have to be transformed and conformed, as Paul tells us in Romans. And as we do this, our lives become very spiritual acts of worship unto themselves. And we rejoice on this Worship Wednesday as we celebrate knowing that our lives, saved in the blood of the Lamb, saved in Jesus Christ, empowered by the Spirit of God, are the very acts of worship that speak to our fellow brothers and sisters around us. I pray that God blesses each and every one of you. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow as we continue on inside the Gospel of John in our morning meditations. God bless, and I look forward to seeing you then.